Stand and sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of work and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for the right. We've won freedom's fight, all one, strong and free. Praise be to God. Bless our great nation. Free men we stand under the flag of our land, Zambia. Praise to thee, all one, strong and free. Simudza imure zawedu Zimbabwe yakaja rwane moto wechimurenga neropa zhinji ramagamba tidziviri rekumandudzo sengai komborerwe nyika yeZimbabwe.
Many lives of Zimbabweans and Zambians alike were lost in the many places in this country, where our freedom fighters were provided with sanctuary during the long and difficult struggle of our self-determination, and in which today the remains of our fallen comrades lie buried. These areas include Chikumbi, Nampundwe, Mukoshi, Mlungushi, Kavalamanja, Kabanga, and others that are still being discovered. Today's event, therefore, which we are all gathered here to witness, is also meant for us not only to appreciate and sample Zimbabwean culture through fine artworks and soothing Mira music and Tuku music, but to step forward and make a contribution as Zimbabweans towards the upkeep and refurbishment of our shrines around Zambia.
National museums and many of Zimbabwe have a mandate to preserve, to present, to regulate use of our heritage. Liberation heritage is one of the key heritage that we have in the country.
The government of the Republic of Zambia is in total support of this initiative by the Zimbabwean government and embassy to host this inaugural arts and cultural exhibition.
Thank you so much for coming to this exhibition. It means I'm actually overwhelmed, Ambassador. I do not know what to say as far as this function is concerned. I'll say it later, but I just wanted to say that in front of everyone so that you would know how grateful I am for this opportunity. So as I'm here today, I've got two of my colleagues with me. They also come from Zimbabwe and they've got some amazing work. And I also have some amazing work. So if you have wallets that have got money in them, please purchase this lovely, beautiful, I mean, these wall hangings will change your life. So I recommend that you purchase these paintings, but not just because they're beautiful, but also because a percentage of the proceeds are going towards the refurbishment and this war museum that the ambassador wants put up. So it is for an amazing cause, and I think that there's no better cause that the Zimbabwean community could want to support other than that.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Tiambuya. Happy birthday to you.
How do I say? Do not say that. Remember? Natasha.
Don't zuguru nyarara chiri mundare ndare veungandiparire ungandirengeseni ungandizvorese ndapoti ndoziya usanga pachena ndona chidzimu chatora ndonzwa iwaro kutaura kwacho dai kuri kwangu nyamuzi pamatemo wangu mani nemakano aya matatu usatikidiriye achikinderewe nomuranguriye achikinderewe wabasegeza pimbi mwine chiro rega kukangai kanga mudziembeho rega kukanga kanga mudziembeho rega kukanga kanga mudziembeho rega kukanga kanga mudziembeho next one.
Of Zimbabweans and Zambians alike were lost in the many places in this country where our freedom fighters were provided with sanctuary during the long and difficult struggle of our self-determination, and in which today the remains of our fallen comrades lie buried. These areas include Chikumbi, Nampundwe, Mukoshi, Mlungushi, Kavalamanja, Kabanga, and others that are still being discovered.
I am Colonel Kono Giane, belong to the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, but currently I'm employed as the Defense Attaché at the Embassy of Zimbabwe here in Lusaka. And briefly, during the liberation struggle of Zimbabwe, I was also fortunate to be here in Zambia. And before I talk more about the liberation struggle, I want to just quickly highlight that Zambia, they played a critical role in the liberation struggles of Southern Africa. Here in Zambia, we saw the hosting of the MPLA of Angola, Frelimo of Mozambique, the Zimbabwe Nationals, the African National Congress of South Africa, the SWAPO of Namibia, among some of the liberation movements here in Zambia.
On the 19th October 1978, it was early in the morning, around about 7:30. There was a group which at least was supposed to go to Angola. The number was about 400 plus or minus. So they were at the parade. Myself, I was actually at the headquarters in the homestead, which was in the farm. And all of a sudden, I heard a big bang. Actually, the aim was to make sure they dropped the bombs where the group of recruits were. And this place had a number of buildings with a number of vehicles which at least were parked in the logistics, and with fuel, with foodstuffs, with some armament as well. And the place was guarded by trained personnel. Unfortunately, because we were within the perimeters of the Lusaka city, which is about 25 kilometers, the government of Zambia wouldn't allow us to use anti-air weapons. The first shot came, as I said, from the north to the south, and then they were assisted by helicopters because the killing zone was towards the southeast, towards the railway line, where there was this thicket. Most of the recruits, when they had the aircrafts, coming, they tried to run towards the bushes so that they could hide. It was too late, and then most of them were hit before they reached, the thicket. And the two helicopters kept on cycling, forcing people to go towards the southern part. I was lucky. We were slightly injured. Instead of, because actually I was lucky because I didn't go to the west, to the east. I went to the opposite where the aircrafts were coming, and I was able to cross the fence and the road which was running towards parallel with the camp, up until I reached about a quarter kilometers. All of a sudden, they came for the second sorties. They came from the south, went straight to the north, and immediately they turned and they dropped some more bombs. And there was a big explosion. This time I think they hit the logistics and some vehicles which were parked there. There was a lot of panic, a lot of dust, and I'm sure we lost close to about 600 comrades on that day. After the bombardment, there were a number of comrades who were injured. Some of them were able to move, some of them were not able to move, to run away. I proceeded towards the west with a group of about 15 those who were able to move. Up until I got to the main road, I had my AK. I stopped, one of the heavy-duty truck drivers. Then I had to load everyone who was there in that vehicle. Then we proceeded to Lusaka. Approaching Lusaka, the Zambian government already, they did a wonderful job. The police on the sirens were already moving towards Chikumbi, and ambulances all over the place, and then more ambulances were coming from our Zimbabwe HQ here in Lusaka.
And after some few months, the army commander came and they chose those he thought were strong enough to go for training at Mkushi. And I was lucky enough to be one of those. And by then I was 16 years. We went to Mkushi as the first group of girls. Mkushi was a girls' camp. So there were only few men, the cooks at the kitchen and the instructors. We trained there for 6 months. Then after 6 months, the training was over. Then more recruits were coming for the training. So those trained, they went to another camp just a few meters from where we trained. And the first camp which we started was for the recruits, the new ones. We were supposed to come for the training. Now on this fateful day, that was on the 19th of October 1978, the bombardment started at Mkushi 1, which was a training camp where they were recruits. Then Mkushi 2, they were instructors, those who were already qualified. They were the ones who were staying there. Fortunately enough, when they bombed in Mkushi 1, those ones, Mkushi 2, some of them were already out of the camp. Not meaning that they were not bombed. The bombardment took place at the same time. So, but the Mkushi 1 had so many deaths and casualties because those recruits didn't know how to take cover or to protect themselves. Otherwise, Mkushi 2 had trained personnel. They also died there, but the number it's not as big as that one from Kushwan. I took cover, as I was trained to take cover. Then you are supposed to react after that to make a decision. Then I started skirmishing, trying to run away from those jets, trying to run away from the ground force which was coming, shooting, until I got out of the fighting zone to Feira, where they were Zambians.
Most of them who went into the defense pits, they were very unfortunate because the ground force actually closed the inn and they were massacred while they were in the defense pits. Those who actually tried stage by stage skirmishing, they managed to get out of the danger zone. But it was really a terrible thing, because I went there. You would find that in one defense pit there were more than 10 to 15 people in one pit. The Boers didn't move from that camp. I think they took almost about 4 days, whilst the Zambians also were trying to assist. One Majoras with a number of soldiers, they tried to move into the camp. They were hit by a landmine when they were approaching the ground, the training grounds. The other thing which at least our comrade didn't mention was this, that one of the instructors ran to Mkushi Boma police station to try and get most probably for assistance, from those police officers, and not realizing that the firepower they couldn't match. Those Zambian police officers accompanied one of our comrades, Comrade Daveni, to the camp. Unfortunately, all of them they were just killed.
Daveni
Ntachana. They were killed. There was no survivor besides Ntachana, and this Ntachana was captured and they took him to Rhodesia by then.
Another camp of significance is Solwezi in the area of Chief Kapincha Mpanga, and this one also used to house some zebra cutters. These were incursions here in Zambia. And you find these places which I've mentioned, starting with Kavala Manja, we have physical testimony to that, and that there are graves, mass graves, which are there. At a freedom camp, we've got mass graves which are there. In Mkushi, we've got also mass graves which are there. In Mulungushi, similarly, we've got mass graves there. In Nampundwe, we've got mass graves which are there. The Rhodesians did not only attack here in Zambia, they even followed some zebra cadres who were training in Angola. And again, in Angola, there are some massacres there. Not talking about in Mozambique, where our comrades from Zanda were operating from.
Simuza imure zawe duwe Zimbabwe yakaja rwane motowe.
When I came into Zambia, I went through guerrilla training, and that was when I was Siponyoni. We were then brought into Chikumbi for further training, where I acquired the name of Shantimpande when we were going to the Soviet Union. We came back in 1979 when the been mentioned bombardments had already taken place. We had our own share of that when we experienced that, first in Nampundu and then in Chipata guerrilla training camp, specifically at Foxwall. The story was the same. However, after independence, we somewhat went into our honeymoon and somewhat forgot about what was happening here until 2007. That's when I first came to Zambia. On that day, if my memory serves me well, there were about 3 buses sponsored by the government. This is when we came through to Nampundu and Freedom Camp. When we had sight of that camp, we thought something could be done. With the change in the economic situation in the country, we ended up not coming this side. There was an omission in 2008, and in 2009, a group of survivors from Mkushi were sponsored by someone else to go and visit the area. After that, in 2010, I think there was an omission. 2011, this is when the idea was muted to say, look, it's not a finished story about the shrines and where the other freedom fighters had been left. We set as a few group to think of how else we could survive that spirit. Because of the economic situation, the government was no longer in the capacity to finance those trips. We then said, what could be done? A businessman, a transporter, and an ex-fighter then offered to say, I can give you a bus. We then said we should form a group. Initially, it was the group, and we named it Makawe Sizwe Group. That was in 2011. We came through, we went to Nampundu, we went to Freedom Camp in Chikumbi, and through to Mukushi. It was at Mukushi that we felt, as the executive of the group, it was important that we get this organization registered. We then said we need to draft and make a constitution, which was successively. We then said, let's have it registered, only to be told it wasn't possible without the involvement of a lawyer. When we went to the lawyer now, this is when we were legally advised to say, no, we should change from group to a trust. And thereafter, we became Makawe Sizwe Intorage Trust. The whole idea of forming that group was a question which was hovering in the minds of the members of the group, to say what has become of us Zimbabweans, that we are forgetting the fellow comrades left behind during the struggle.
In Zimbabwe, every August, we celebrate a Heroes Day, and we thought it was necessary as well to come here in Zambia and visit the shrines of those who are lying here in Zambia, whom we left. So we formed the Makawe Sizwe Trust, and I'm one of those members. I'm the vice secretary of the group. Zambia helped us a lot. That is during the war and even after the war. Because those comrades who died, whom we left at Mkushi, bones were lying all over. But they managed to dig some graves to bury them in those mass graves, and to put a fence, and a gate is well fenced.
But as we are talking today, it's now history. We are saying a person was born in 1980. It's proper history. They are actually questioning as to why we went to war. For fear of having that being forgotten or falling by the wayside into oblivion, we said we need to facelift those shrines, to build them into modern places for tourism, to motivate young people to come and see, as well as getting the true story of our nation.
We would like to encourage former Zebras and Zanlas to be united and come together and make sure we remember our fallen heroes. Those are heroes, proper heroes, those who died before the war. And we work hard so that we can actually present our legacy. Our children, like he says, we have to pass on the baton stick to our children, because if you fail to do that, then the history will be lost.
So basically, when this arts festival was held here at Zimbabwean Embassy, one of its objectives was to also raise funds for the rehabilitation of for the rehabilitation of or upgrading of these masquerades. These masquerades, which are here in Zambia, basically they are under the National Museum and Monuments of Zimbabwe. It works in collaboration with the National Heritage Conservation Commission of Zambia. But as the embassy, we feel it is also our duty to see that those graves are spruced up periodically. That is basically the aim of one of the objectives of the Arts Festival, which has been held here.
To date, at 5 of these areas, namely Chikumbi Mukushi, Nampundwe Mulungoshi and Kavalamanja, we have liberation war shrines that have been erected mainly in the form of marked graves and epitaphs, many of which have, from the time they were built, those many years ago, since fallen in a state of disrepair and need not only refurbishment, but also construction of new structures around them to enhance their status as heritage sites, which, for the sake of posterity, we will be able to tell for and by themselves the full story of our liberation struggle.